This is one of these moments, you know, we hear a lot of people talking about flooding the zone and a lot of information coming at you all at once and not being able to sort through things. There are two picks right now that if you talk to people in Washington, D.C., they will this morning tell you two of the most dangerous selections they've seen. Number one, Pete Hegseth, simply because he's unqualified to run the most complicated and most powerful bureaucracy, not only in America, but in the world. And number two now, Kash Patel. And Kash Patel, of course, is a person who infamously said he was going to jail reporters and journalists and news people who did not go along with the 2020 election conspiracy theory. And we're going to be talking in a little bit to Elena Plot Cabrera, who wrote a story about 6 months ago on Kash Patel. Let me just read you just a little bit from that. When Patel was installed as chief of staff to the acting secretary of defense just after the 2020 election, Mark Milley, who of course was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, advised him to not break the law. Quote, life looks really shitty from behind bars, Milley reportedly told Patel. When Trump entertained naming Patel deputy director of the FBI, Attorney General Bill Barr, again, another Trump loyalist, confronted the White House chief of staff and said, quote, over my dead body. When in the final weeks of the administration, Trump planned to name Patel deputy director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, the head of the CIA, threatened to resign. Trump relented only after an intervention from Vice President Mike Pence. She goes on to ask, who is this man and why did so many top officials fear him? And we will go through it. It's certainly not because he's an expert in any of these fields. It's not even because he's an ideologue. It's because he seems, according to this piece and everything we've seen, singularly focused on exacting revenge on people who did not carry through on Donald Trump's threats of retribution. And again, we will be playing the clip in a minute where he promises to arrest journalists and reporters and news people who refused to go along with the 2020 Stop the Steal conspiracy theories. I mean, this is, again, we're going to be talking about Pete Hegseth in a second. Explosive reporting over the night from the New Yorker from two whistleblowers, which I predict will probably at the end sink that nomination along with a letter from his mother that was published this past weekend. But let's keep everything in perspective, and let's start with the man that was not selected yet because he'd have to fire Chris Wray first. Right. But the person that he floated out there to serve as FBI director, Kash Patel.
Well, let's start with the idea that he'd have to fire Chris Wray. Let's remember, he fired FBI Director James Comey, which almost brought his administration down in 2017, and Republicans in a fury. Now he talks about firing Chris Wray. Most in the GOP shrugged, go along with it. This is the new normal in Donald Trump's Washington, they believe. And the man that Trump says he wants to put in Wray's stead, Kash Patel, perceived by many to be deeply dangerous because he has indeed, as you note, no qualifications for this job. Many of Trump's former aides said as much 4 years ago. But Patel, I'm told, and I'm talking to people in the orbit the last couple of days, there is no ideology. There's no agenda here other than retribution. Patel's one defining characteristic is that he is simply loyal to Donald Trump. And even inner circle Trump members of the last few years have been startled by Patel's willingness to simply do whatever Trump wants.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there, Jonathan. And we need to talk more about this. Kash Patel is not just controversial among media outlets or Democrats. He's not just controversial among Republican senators. He is controversial inside Trump's own orbit. I mean, you go inside Trump's own orbit, and it is split down the middle with half the people thinking he's going to be a disaster for any Donald Trump administration. And they never wanted this nomination to see the light of day because, again, that divide goes straight through MAGA world as well for those around Donald Trump.
Yeah, people I've talked to say this pick was a nod to the extreme right-wing portions of Trump base, the Steve Bannon, ultra MAGA sector here, who had been disappointed by some of Trump's more conventional picks, like, say, Treasury Secretary and Secretary of State. So this is Trump throwing them red meat because he knows he needs to keep them happy. But there are others in Trump world deeply worried about this pick, who feel like Patel is not only unqualified, but indeed dangerous. That Patel will never think twice, never hesitate in carrying out whatever Trump wants, even if it means potentially, people say, breaking the law. So there are real questions here, and we'll get into it as to whether or not Patel can be confirmed. Much like Matt Gaetz, that pick seemed in trouble. This one seems hardly a sure thing either, Joe Mika. But there are mechanisms where if he were to fire Wray, Patel could step in an interim way for 200 or so odd days. That even that short sample size, even if he can't get confirmed, would be enough to carry out some of Trump's agenda.
So let's take a closer look into the man Donald Trump says he will nominate as former National Security Council official Kash Patel to serve as FBI director. Patel is an ultra-Trump loyalist who has promoted lies that the 2020 election was stolen, as well as the baseless conspiracy theory that federal bureaucrats in the deep state tried to overthrow the former president. At the end of Trump's first term, Patel served briefly as an advisor to the acting director of national intelligence and as chief of staff to acting defense secretary Chris Miller. During that time, Trump proposed that Patel run the FBI, which Attorney General Bill Barr vehemently objected to. As Joe mentioned, Barr wrote in his memoir, he told then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows that Patel would get the deputy job, quote, over my dead body. Barr also wrote that Patel had virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency. The very idea of moving Patel into a role like this showed a shocking detachment from reality. That's a quote.
That's Bill Barr. That's Bill Barr's quote, by the way, not NPR's. That's Bill Barr's quote.
In the closing months of his first term, Trump also suggested that Patel serve as deputy CIA director. Then CIA Director Gina Haspel threatened to resign if Patel was installed. In an interview last year, Patel vowed to go after judges, lawyers, and journalists who he viewed as enemies of Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, but do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order the first couple of months so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me, the one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all-America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
All right, let's bring in.
Hold on a second. Could you play that again? And can we do a CC to Republican senators? Hey, Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley. Let's see. Well, Mike Rounds is a great patriot. I'm sure he's already deeply disturbed by this. He said pretty much just that. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who certainly stood up to the atrocious election of Matt Gaetz. We want to play this one again. This is a long-distance dedication from Casey to you.
Kash, I know you're probably going to be head of the CIA, But do you believe that you can deliver the goods on this in a pretty short order the first couple of months so we can get rolling on prosecutions?
Yes, we got the bench for it, Bannon, and you know those guys. I'm not going to go out there and say their names right now so the radical left-wing media can terrorize them. But, excuse me, the one thing we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all-America patriots top to bottom. And we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for DOD, CIA, everywhere. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
I'd love to also play this one more time for all those Wall Street billionaires who say, oh, come on. This is just all about tax cuts. He's not going to get people who prosecute.
He's not going to put cash in there.
Come on. Never put Kash Patel in as FBI director. Love to see what the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Maybe they've written about it this morning. They certainly should have. Love to play this for other apologists who have said that Kash Patel would never get put in that position. We kept hearing that time and time again. And again, mainly for the Republican senators who stood up when their advise and consent power was tested when it came to Matt Gaetz. Well, this is not a question of either or. I keep hearing people going, well, maybe if he says no to Matt Gaetz, they say no to Matt Gaetz and maybe to one more. No. If somebody threatens the Constitution, if somebody threatens the First Amendment, if somebody threatens the basic Bill of Rights, it does not matter whether you have to say no to one of those or two of those or three of those. You know, the founders did not write that the Senate had the advise and consent power for maybe one and a half dangerous elections. No, got that for as many as you need. And by the way, this is not just uniformly vote no against everybody that Donald Trump puts up. I think everybody agrees that Marco Rubio, though not a Democrat selection, certainly is within the framework of somebody who could be Secretary of State, who knows the issues, who works with people on both sides, who may be an effective Secretary of State. Same thing with the Treasury Director. But not this. Play it again.
We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
Yeah, and we're putting you on notice. This is not only bad for the men and women who run the FBI. This is not only bad for the rule of law. This is not only bad for the First Amendment. This is not only bad for the United States of America. This is bad for Donald Trump. This is bad for the Trump administration. This is not going to end well